Hi and welcome to JumpCloud's video tutorial series. Today we'll be talking about integrating Okta's single sign-on service with JumpCloud's directory as a service all through Ldap. Let's talk about the task. We'll provision users to Okta's single sign-on platform from JumpCloud's directory as a service, and we'll do this all through direct Ldap integration. So for the details of how we'll do it, first, we'll give you an overview of JumpCloud's Ldap service. Second, we'll talk through the integration of JumpCloud and Okta through their Ldap configuration screens. Third, we'll create and verify a user in JumpCloud, and then finally, provision that user to Okta and sign that user in. So let's take you through some of JumpCloud's Ldap basics. First, Ldap is included free with JumpCloud's Directory as a Service product. There is no need for any installation or ongoing management of Ldap. Second, our implementation of Ldap is based upon the open Ldap standard distro. Third, JumpCloud's Ldap is enabled within the product's settings screen. When you turn on or enable Ldap within JumpCloud, this will also provide many necessary configuration parameters for integrating with products like Okta. For example, your organization ID or API key in some cases. Lastly, a user in the directory should be created to act as an Ldap service account, or commonly referred to as a bind-DN. To talk through some of those details, including bind and base DNs, this screen provides many of the example or configuration basics for Ldap that a wide variety of applications utilize. Our Ldap endpoint is ldap-s or ldap.jumpcloud.com, utilizing port 636 for secure transactions, or of course the lesser secure port 389. Moving down below, we would really like to enforce that our knowledge base at support.jumpcloud.com/knowledge base has an incredible amount of information that you can refer to, including this screen, for configuring Ldap applications to work with JumpCloud. So let's jump into the integration, and we'll start with JumpCloud's side of the integration and preparing it to act as the Ldap source of record for Okta. To do this, we'll review first the Ldap user bind-DN that is required within the JumpCloud directory. Second, we'll create and verify a brand new user to be provisioned to Okta. So within JumpCloud, we advise you to create an Ldap user, typically known as a bind-DN. In this instance, I've created one already called Ldap user, as you see here. And again, this is a service account, a dummy account, if you will, that's activated within the JumpCloud directory to have the basic rights to be able to search the users group, which is a common occurrence for applications that need to go into where the existing group of users is, so to speak. The most important aspect of this service account or Ldap bind account is as follows. Let me jump into the details. This particular bit setting, where you see Ldap binding user service account, is critical. This will enable this account to have the authority to search that Ldap group. So with that understood, let's go in and create our user, which we will import into Okta. To do that, we'll simply select Add User, and we'll give this guy a name, Bob Jones. And we'll give him a username, bjones, and his email. I will be utilizing just a JumpCloud account here for purposes of this demonstration. And with that done, we'll select Add User. Now, upon successful creation of the user in JumpCloud does not necessarily mean that this user is ready for use in other applications. Another way of saying this is the user must be verified. To do that, there are two pathways. The first is, upon creation of the account, the user, in this case Bob Jones, was emailed a verification email. The user, Bob Jones, can therefore go in, create their password, and the finalization of that process is a verified account. The alternate method, which I'll show you here, is to simply have the administrator create a password. With the password saved, we'll return to the users list, and as you can see, Bob Jones, via this green check mark, is a verified user, and therefore Ldap can reach and utilize this user if desired. So with JumpCloud's side of the configuration done, let's switch over to Okta and learn how to configure Okta to communicate with JumpCloud, and then finally log into the Okta service with a JumpCloud provisioned user. To do a successful integration, these steps are required. The first is we'll walk you through where to access the Okta Ldap agent from the Okta dashboard. Second, we'll walk through the configuration screen of Okta's Ldap settings to ensure you know with precision how to communicate with JumpCloud's Ldap service. And finally, we will log in as our user, Bob Jones, into Okta, directly being called and authorized from JumpCloud's Ldap service. So here we are within the dashboard interface of Okta. Let's navigate to the People tab, and specifically to directories. It's here that first you will add a directory, and to do that you will add an Ldap directory. Okta requires an agent to be installed, as you see here in the middle part of their diagram. This is an agent that is installed on a Windows server, which acts as the conduit to communicate and translate information from Okta's APIs into Ldap calls to an Ldap server, in this case JumpCloud. We'll assume that you've already done that, as I have in this case. Once that has been properly set up, you'll see your Ldap agent as activated right here. So a service indicator green is positive, meaning the agent is up, alive, and running and able to communicate between the Ldap service, JumpCloud again in this case, and of course Okta. But specifically, let's go into the settings. Once you have the agent installed, you have to still configure Okta to communicate with the Ldap endpoint. So let's switch over to settings. Here, you will select first the variant of Ldap that JumpCloud utilizes. As you can see, Okta supports a number of them, but Open Ldap is the standard which is utilized by JumpCloud. Moving into the depths of the configuration screen, you can see all the various parameters, some of which are mandatory, others are not necessary. And I will go through these not in specific, but just enough so that you can see them within the screen. Also, please make note, this entire presentation is done statically on a blog, on the engineering blog at jumpcloud.com. So moving further down through the settings parameters, a couple of things to note here that are different than the standard or defaults that are input by Okta. One of those is groups of names, which is utilized in our Ldap search query. And that is both utilized for the object class type for group as well as the role for group. Moving down a bit further, these are, in the prior screens we talked about a bind DN and a base DN. The base DN is exactly what you see here, which is the search container of where the sort of directory of users lives within our Ldap endpoint. Finally, the validation comes into play. This is where we utilize the Ldap bind user, in this case the email of the Ldap bind user. You can configure this to communicate either through email, which I have done in this case, or through other attributes like username. So let's input that Ldap user. And we will test the configuration. And as you can see here, the validation was successful, and upon verifying that it is successful, your Ldap is ready for use. The final part of our demonstration is the provisioning of the user from Ldap into Okta. But how does this occur? Okta utilizes a just-in-time provisioning technique, which is fairly simple in that the new user, Bob Jones, merely needs to sign into their brand new account for the first time. As you can see here, I have the email preloaded, but I will type in Bob Jones' password. Bob Jones will sign in, and they'll be presented with a welcome screen where they'll have to finish their account creation. For example, they'll pick their security image, and they'll create the account. With the account created, let's switch back over to the Okta dashboard. As you can see here, the user hasn't been provisioned yet, but with a simple refresh, our Bob Jones user has now been provisioned from Ldap into Okta. For more information on the Okta and JumpCloud integration, visit the Okta integration blog post via the URL you see below. For specifics on Ldap, review our knowledge base at support.jumpcloud.com. And for any direct questions, please don't hesitate to contact our support team at support@jumpcloud.com or via the live chat mechanism within the JumpCloud dashboard. Thank you for listening today, and we encourage you to visit us at jumpcloud.com